Hello and welcome to another episode. Let's go beyond comfort. Today with an interview guest. Today here with me is Katherine Plaut. She is the curation and coaching lead at TEDx Linz, and she's also an architect. She's here with me. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you for having me. Welcome. Thank you.
Katherine, tell us more about your roles at TEDx.
I'm leading the whole coordination of the speaker curation, so the lineup that goes on stage. So everything that goes on stage is, let's say, part of my responsibility. And that also meaning that I'm leading and coordinating the coaching process of the speakers when we already have the lineup. Additionally to that, we are a group of volunteers, and therefore you cook coffee and also meet the president and everything in between is part also of the spirit of the team and what we all are open to do. But officially, my main responsibility is everything that has to do with the speakers.
And you've been also coaching Stefan Klinger, right?
Yes, that's true. Challenge.
A challenge?
Yes, sir.
So he was here. He was the last interview guest actually here.
Okay.
And he recommended you. And why was it a challenge? Or how can I imagine what he was going through in this process and you were going through with leading him also?
So what was going on in his mind is something that you need to invite Stefan again back to this chair. But from my side, it was a challenge because there were so many ideas on the table and very new perspectives on how to put these ideas. And as you know him, he has a very broad range of interests, and how to get the best out of all of these thoughts that he was having and he was playing with at the moment. It was a very, very fun process. So while we were working on it, he did submit a couple of ideas, and then the process was how to choose. And funny enough, we didn't choose. We actually merged them, which was probably the very first time I've ever done something like that with a speaker. Usually they have one line of thought, but that has also to do with, if you look at Stefan's, especially his studies and everything that he has been diving into, so many different fields that tend to be, or at least are perceived as opposite fields. And that was the most interesting part that we thought we could put on stage. How with this one person you can put storytelling and data and AI and what's happening in technology in one place, and how you can turn this phenomena that's happening with technology at the moment through storytelling. And I don't know if you watch his talk, but he's even sitting on a chair because there was this moment while he was rehearsing one day where everyone had the feeling that he was the grandpa telling a story to the grandchildren, like really like this very romantic image of the grandpa with all of the grandchildren, not meaning that he's old. We told him that as well. And we said, we need to take this feeling to the stage as well. And this is why his talk starts with him sitting on a chair, to also reinforce the feeling of him telling a story. And the beauty of it was that he wanted to be a little bit more controversial on what the idea that he wants to convey has a little bit, it felt dangerous in a way to some people on just talking about telling all of your secrets, opening everything. But if you tell it as if it were a story, then it's a different thing, because through stories you're allowed to say way more than if you're saying your name, my profession, and this is what I stand for. Although he's also standing behind what he's telling when he's telling a story. So this is why it was a challenge, but I think we nailed it, I hope.
So this is actually really good marketing for his TED Talk. I will put the link in the description so everybody can check it out.
He is. I think he's reaching the 1 million views at the moment. He's like a really right under it. Is So I think there were quite a lot of people that actually did like the choice we made.
About interesting interview guests, and he raised you to do multiple reasons. We will tackle them today.
My honor.
But one of also, since this podcast is called Beyond Comfort, and everything I do with this format is to give ideas, thoughts, examples of how to reach each and everybody's potential better. And he said you got a really interesting and probably also unique style on doing that, on leading people through this process of development with coaching, with teaching, with guiding them with the storytelling, probably also with the techniques and all of that, that you are a challenge as a coach or a challenger, but also that people take it not too harsh or too hard on them, so that people should go with you and that you're not or whatever. Sometimes people feel like offended if you tell them do it differently. What is your take on this? What do you think? Are you doing different than others, or how do you lead people through this development?
Wow. Well, that's a big compliment. I'm very honored that he said that, because it's in the heart of the spirit of what I want to do, is exactly that. So I think there's something that it's not unique to me, but it might be very strong in comparison. I can't really compare myself to other coaches, as I've never coached together with someone, the same person, I mean. So we are a team, so we do coach together, but I don't get to experience the whole coaching process. So we do meet for some sessions, so I do get to see how other people give feedback. But I do have a way of telling you the truth. And actually, people want to hear the truth. So raw, but with care. We've become, as a society, I have the feeling, very scared of being honest with each other. Like really, we have a huge problem in doing that. But when you do it, people are enormously grateful that finally someone is telling me. It brings clarity to the conversation, and you stop losing your time in discussing things that don't have a point. On the other hand, and this is something I do very, very, very consciously, is to reinforce and tell my coachees over and over again that this is the opinion of one person. I'm one person, and I do know that because of my position that we have some biases, and whoever holds whichever title, we tend to give more or less relevance to the comments coming from a particular person because of the position they're holding, which doesn't necessarily mean that the opinion or the idea is better than from someone that doesn't hold the position. So I try to consciously break that bias by telling and giving my coachees the homework to go and talk to more people and to add those comments at the same level as mine. If they do that or not, then I'm no longer in control of that. But it is in my control to highlight over and over again that be careful, that just imagine the day at the event, or whichever situation it is, it will be 300 people in the room, and I will be one of those 300 people. And in the context of the TEDx conference, when this one goes out, in the case of Stefan, I'm 1 in 1 million. So this is the weight. Should be the weight of my opinion, and you are the one taking the decision. So then, no matter what I say, at the end of the day, I give you the power back of the decision making. Also to protect myself. It's also a very selfish situation. It's not only about caring, it's also about caring about myself. I can't take responsibility of if I'm coaching you, whatever you say on stage. Like that's whatever you say on stage is your responsibility. And this is also something that we cover as much as we can. But whatever you do on stage, this is you. Like this should be only you.
So in other words, you're telling that you're not pushing your opinion too much on them, more or less. You're giving the responsibility back.
Yes. So how much I push my opinion, I think that has to do with a combination of the two characters that are interacting at the moment. And we've all experienced situations where you have someone that is so mesmerizing to you. It's not that I mean that I'm mesmerizing, but that whatever the person would say, you want to do that. Or that you give because of the feeling that you have, or you feel that you own the person something. And there's something of that when we choose the speakers, that the speaker, not every single one of them, but it is not uncommon that some of the speakers feel that they own us something because we chose them, which we definitely don't believe. We are grateful that they even applied. And part of the coaching process is also balancing that power dynamic, where and I think that is key. If you don't work on balancing the power dynamic, you can get to the point that the speaker feels that, or whoever you're coaching, that can also be a child or can be whoever is in your team, you can push it to the point that if you don't make it, if you're the one leading, if you don't make it clear that the responsibility and the choice is on someone else and it's not yours, your opinion becomes an order, and that should never happen if you're coaching someone, I believe.
And you said people want to know the truth. Do you think this is also applicable if it's not a TEDx coaching series?
Yes.
Life in day-to-day working life?
Yes.
Do you think it's more challenging there, since there's not this strong power dynamics?
Yes, of course it's more challenging because the stakes are way higher. Because then the stakes are your personal relationship to the person, usually. And if you're talking about a project or a specific idea, although your idea is probably one of the most personal and intimate things you can share with someone, an idea that you're really excited about, that you feel that it's yours, but still it's on the paper, it's a script that you're talking about, and you can even comment it, like maybe this word, maybe there are ways that you can keep it, that it's all about the text, although it's never only about the text. But when you're discussing something on a personal level, the stakes are way higher. But I do believe people want honesty.
Advice or learnings you want to share on doing it also in private life. So this is something I get to experience a lot in my type of work, of course, with many conflicts, with different working environments, working types, personality types, expectation, which are probably the biggest reason to conflict, I believe. It's not only communication. This is a big topic, but even before so, I experience, or I always get to see that the expectations are sometimes way off or even opposites. And then communication also adds up.
Yeah.
And then we have this big conflict. There's on those topics.
Oh, there's several angles probably. The first thing is that you have to start doing it. Like you will never learn to ride the bike if you don't get on the bike. You can watch as much as you want. You can discuss it. You can theorize about the dynamics and the physics and whatever of the bike. But if you don't sit on the bike and fall and hurt and get your bandage on the knee because you were bleeding, you will never be able to ride the bike, and you will never be able to giving the feedback and being honest as any other emotion or skill in human communication. I think it's something that needs rehearsing, needs courage, needs to be done over and over again until you start feeling that you sort of can do it, and then you will be able to do it, and then you will have some takes to it, and then you will have your own opinions, and then you will be confident. And even at the point that you're confident, you will have 1,000 situations where you're overwhelmed, and the closer or the more significant your relationship is, the bigger the stakes and the more nervous you get, and you will fuck it up big time there, like exactly you want to, And as much as I can tell you a lot of examples, I could tell you examples on how I've done this. When I look into my personal relationships within friends and families and partner, and like those are the ones that really where I struggle, like where I would love to be more honest, or I would love to go ahead and actually have the conversation, and it takes years before I'm able to just say I actually would really love to talk about this, like for already 10 years, like, but when you're in the situation of the coaching and you have this professional, let's say, sort of professional umbrella over it, it gives you a shield. It gives you a distance that protects you, and so it's really, really hard to say, okay, look, this is how we do it when we're coaching the speakers. Take it to your personal life, because there you have to do it, and it will hurt, and it will be difficult, and it will. I would never tell someone like, get on the bike, you will never fall. Like it's just rising expectations that you will never meet them.
Because actually it's the same, but it's way tougher. So
yes,
coaching speakers, you're coaching the role of a speaker, right? And this particular role comes with certain behavioral patterns and traits. To have a nice story, to have a string through the storyline, to present yourself well, the way you dress with all these cameras at TEDx especially, right? And all of that. But also, and this is an episode I did earlier, to talk about the roles like friendships, or like a friend, a partner, a husband, a father, an uncle in my case, or whatever. And there's also this set of behavior everybody wants to achieve, but we take it way more personal.
Of course.
So I would say your role...
Because it is personal.
Yeah, it's more personal, I would say. Because also, if you present yourself not in the best way on your stage at TEDx, it's still you. And if I present myself not well as a friend, because I don't call you on your birthday, or I don't show up, or I always come late, or whatever the behavior might be, it's also me. And closer and closer to my self-worth and all of those topics. And my thought here is, the more you know who you are, the more you know how you're perceived, the easier you take those friction and those comments. So the stronger your self-worth is, the more stable it is, the more feedback loops or also critical sayings you probably are able to take. So for me, everything is connected with your self-worth, and the role is a shield, you as a coach and also as the coachee.
It gives you sort of a bonus to that self-worth.
Yeah.
Yes, and also the title does that as well. In any situation, when you can always go back to, I am the mom, I am the coach, I am the and you can. No, it doesn't really matter if you say it or not. You can internally also go to that, so that you have a validation behind it, and it will be sort of a bonus over your baseline of your self-worth. Yes, true.
Sometimes I work with people and say, okay, what is your expectation on this role as being a mom? And then you might say A, B, C, D, and then ask, how do you feel? Are you reaching those behavioral traits right now? And then you say, no, this I barely make. Okay, this might be the way out. And then they usually are way more open to it because it's their goal, not my goal. And this is, I believe, something you do with the TED coaching. You say, this is just my opinion. Please go and challenge it with others. This is not something I'm forcing you. This is just a thought. But you are the boss because it's your talk. And I believe this is really strong, to give it back and to not push, because everybody, if there's force, we will push back probably. If there's no force, we tend to be more open and to be more in a learn attitude, I would say.
But I think there you put your finger on a very important point, that if in the relationship that you have with your coachee, you haven't worked before on the self-worth in this relationship, in you and me, if you don't believe that I think you're worth it and that I feel that you're worth it, then you can forget it. You will get nowhere. Like that's the base. So if you don't have that base, we even swap coaches at some point. If I'm feeling that for any given reason, if let's say I was coaching you for any given reason, I'm not getting through. You're just not listening to me anymore. It might have been that we got into a fight, or it might have been that you just truly don't agree with certain things that are really important to me, or you got offended with someone. We do swap coaches. And I would ask you to keep on going on with the process with someone else because that thing broke. And that doesn't mean that it's not repairable, because sometimes it's just about this one thing. And this is the power of mediation. When a third person comes in and goes like, yes, I do see your point, but I do see hers as well. Look at it this way. And then you go like, okay, yeah, so maybe I was offended out of no reason. Or maybe I was offended out of very, very good reasons that I hadn't even seen. And only then you get to decide again whether, and it's very, very common that it's a misunderstanding. And a third person coming in and mirroring everything that happened is what it takes so that the conflict is dissolved. And then you go like, no, I'm good with her. I'll go back. I want my coach back. And then you have sort of a re-encounter, and then you keep on going even stronger than before. Or it can also happen that you go like, it's either I keep on going with someone else, or I withdraw my application because I don't want. We've never had that. Happily, we've never got into that situation, but we've done swaps and going back several times, because also the whole process is very, very complex. It doesn't need to be like someone being offended involved. Sometimes it's just that it's very, very common that the speaker, about 6 to 4 weeks before the event, they get so nervous that they start ripping their idea apart to go through the safe path. And the safe path usually is a very beautiful story that says absolutely nothing new. Like, it's just a very nice story, but that's not the talk we want to have on stage, because this brings no new ideas. It provokes no reflections. And this is really not what the speaker really wants to be like on stage. And we need to give that space again, go to someone else, let's put everything back together, and let's restart. So
wording, because I had in my mind, you need to push them back to the story and beyond their comfort zone. And you were framing it like, we will give them the space to do it again, but I believe it means the exact same thing. So we see a language expert here.
It is key. It is key how you phrase it. That's where the same information comes across as a loving thing, or as a brutal, offensive insult. Mm-hmm. The exact same piece of information come across as something loving and caring, or something horribly brutal. Especially if you think of examples of how you look physically, how maybe when you were a child, you were a little bit fat and your mom calls you my fatty boy. And when your mom says that, you feel at home and you feel cared about, but if someone on the street shouts to you, hey, you fat boy, it's a totally different story. You get like, so that's sort of the easiest way to put out an example, but it's about anything. Mm-hmm. It's about you being intelligent, can be offensive or can be incredibly encouraging. It's about you being distracted, can be like, if you think about any personal traits or skills that we have, depending on how you phrase it, can be loving or caring or insulting, anything.
Phrase like, let's say person A is always distracted by something at work. How would you phrase this in a loving, caring way? Or how could this be phrased?
I think you would need to see this way of being distracted, how that could turn into a potential. Because most likely you would need to dive a little bit. So I would try to dive a little bit more into how is the person getting distracted and with what. Mm-hmm. And maybe there you have a potential on where he or she could be excellent in doing something. Maybe sitting on the desk for 8 hours, 5 days a week is not where you want to have that person. Maybe that person is the one that needs to be outdoors in the construction site all day, or doing things that some other people would hate. But because of this wandering around with the mind, that person will be exceptional in doing something else. But that would be about your role, like the homework you need to do before you dive into the conversation. You just can't just dive into the conversation and like you're always this. Or maybe it's just, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Everyone has been noticing, and I'm sure you also have noticed how much you wander around in your mind. And I'm really interested in what is it that you're thinking about. Is there anything that we can put here in the new project or what? And that's a totally different thing, because then you're asking the person their opinion on how people are perceiving them, or like you're bringing the conversation back to them so that they can control the narrative in some way. If you have the whole narrative on your side, it's a dead end probably.
True. Is problem cost thinking, right? To see where could you make use of the strengths of the person. But this is not always the case. What if you're the manager, there is person A, and he is always getting distracted and never finishes work? Then you would open up this conversation with, hey, I was wondering, and then you would phrase it like that to lead somewhere and to make that person self-aware of this trait and just to learn his perspective about it.
I think in this whole process, you will never always have a solution where the person gets to be the superhero of the story, or you get to be the superhero. Sometimes you need to make cuts. That's also a thing. Withdrawals are from both sides in our work, something that happens. It's not what you wish for, but sometimes it is the best way out. And that is also about being honest with the other person. This relationship is just not working. And there you can also be candid about it. And you might be surprised with what the person has to say. If you are open to, same as you are open to giving honest feedback, you need to be open to receive the candid feedback as well. And that will hurt. It's not that I'm saying that it's an easy thing to do, that it's almost never easy. And you almost always have this feeling in your stomach that it's crunching and that you're getting nauseous. So that feeling is part of what the whole process is about. And if you're not willing to experience any distressed feelings, this is not the path. But most likely, there's no way out of those feelings, because you either choose these or being horribly mad every time you see the person or anyone names the person, because you go back to everything that the person is doing or not doing that you think it should be the other way around. So it's a matter of your choice. Which are the distress feelings that you want to have? And we have been educated to be polite about it in a way. And being polite about it is, unfortunately, not talking about it and avoiding the conflict. And I don't think that is doing us any good. Not in the personal level, not in the highest of the most global levels. When we don't discuss and when we don't go into the friction and the thing is that we dive into the friction when there's no other way out. So the experience that we have is almost always traumatic or very near to traumatic, because you don't do your homework. You don't think about how to dive into those topics. You don't think about which are the things that the other person might like doing, or try to have a more global comprehension of what's going on. You just dive in with your anger. Well done. Like the chances, like it's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Like, and this is where we are at the moment.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I wouldn't say that it's polite, it's just understood it as being polite. Because sometimes, or somebody quoted myself once on LinkedIn, and she said, She will never forget my take on being polite, because I see being polite showing me the room of development or how I could become better. And if I do a stupid thing and you just swallow
Not-
it
and
and
not-
swallow it and swallow it, I think this is not polite. This is letting me harming myself or harming my
it's
career.
pushing you to the cliff.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
pushing me to my cliff. Whatever will happen. And so for me, politeness is to tell the person, oh, you've got something between your teeth. Watch out, you have toilet paper on your shoe or whatsoever. Or watch out the way you address things in meetings, because this is taking a twist, however you've worded it.
Yeah.
But this is for me real politeness and real caring.
Yeah.
It's just not always understood in the first place.
Yes.
And so I'm 100% with the way you see it.
But I think it's the immediate reaction, because it comes almost always as a surprise, as we are not used to people addressing those things directly and letting you know. But if I'm quite sure that in the majority of the cases, if you go back to the person a day after or a week after and ask them if they are happy that you addressed the issue and directly told them whatever was happening, from the toilet paper in the shoe to them being not culturally conscious with someone that they weren't aware of, especially if they weren't aware of, they are thankful that you actually did it, regardless of the immediate reaction that they had.
I wanna shoot my shot. Since you are a coach, a curator,
Getting scared.
and not comfort, right?
Yes, go ahead, shoot.
So let's challenge the comfort zone for the both of us. What type of feedback would you give to myself hosting this format now, as far as you experienced it, out of your role, out of your experience? What would you change? What do you like? What could I do different? Already in this conversation, interviewing yourself.
That's you gave me no time to do my homework.
So it's unfiltered.
You asked for it. If you're asking for direct feedback, I would. So it has felt very, very comfortable so far. I would need to think about it, and I can get back to you. And I think this is also like a side note. We also need to get more comfortable with saying that. I will think about it and I will get back to you. This is no sign of being unprofessional or unprepared. It's just being honest that at this moment I have nothing interesting to say, or I'm not sure, I don't have the facts. I need to give you a responsible answer to it. And I think it's part of what we've been talking about as well. On last weekend, I was doing, so 2 weekends ago, we started coaching the younger coaches. So we did a session of coaching the coaches. And this was something that it felt to me that came as a surprise, that I openly told the new coaches, the younger ones, that they need to put that into their work tool case. If they don't know, if they are unsure, just tell the other person that you will come back to them, and that will come across as professional and very mature, and not the other way around, although we have the feeling that it will come across in a bad way. Because the person will feel that you actually value them and that you want to give them accurate information. And if you do have the information, please go ahead and give it. Like it's not about overusing that sentence. If you overuse it, of course, it loses its value. But it is one of the things that I think it's perfectly fine to answer a question with, I don't know at this moment. I would love to have some more time.
And why do you think that people tend on thinking that this might be unprofessional?
Probably because there's a misunderstanding that everything needs to be ready now, or even better, yesterday. And this is not how good things happen. And instinctively, sorry, like from an how do you say that word? Instinct.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me. Really hard for me. We do know that that good things need more time, but we all have there's this food chain that the perception is that faster is always better. And probably it has to do with that, with accelerating things to an extent that they just don't make any sense anymore. And when you consciously pull the brake, it feels you have a lot of character because it's so rare. I recently heard this person saying, people are not interested in what you do. They're interested in knowing what you do differently. And I think in this case, it applies so well because it's so rare that people just pull the brake. And by saying that sentence of "I'm getting back to you," just give me some time, I'll get back to you. You give yourself space, but you also do things differently, and all of a sudden you're more attractive. Probably. Does it make sense?
I don't interrupt, I would say, and so I would say attention would go up.
It's like the golden rule of public speaking.
Yeah.
Plan your pauses.
Yeah. True.
Because when you pause, the human brain immediately reacts as if something interesting will come afterwards. Try in saying like really, really unimportant things. But if you pause, people will listen to your unimportant thing. No matter if it's like, I'm going by bread and like no one really cares because no one wants bread. If you pause, there's some mechanism of the brain that it means instinctively, I almost did it, that something important is coming afterwards. Because it's also that it's usually that one important thing that you want to say very, very clearly. You personally need a pause so that you say it in the way you want it to come out. So, yeah.
You could make use of in every situation.
But it's so hard.
In it with managers, as you want to bring along your point at a TEDx event, it might also have a really difficult conversation with one of your team members. And then if they say, this is a serious problem, and then they pause and wait or whatever, this is way stronger than then they usually tend to over-explain why it is a problem. Say, no, you don't need it. Just say what it is about and wait. This is really hard to take. This is cruel if you overdo it, or it can be if used in.
And it's horrible. And it's horribly hard. It's just you feel it in your stomach, like in your core. Yeah, your core starts shaking when you're trying to hold that pause. We're so uncomfortable with silence, and we dive into saying anything. Like masters in negotiations, and will also tell you that just master staying silent and you will get everything out of people.
Katherine, we need to talk.
Yes. And then just don't say anything else. And the person will start telling you what is it that they think you want to talk. And you will be surprised. I don't know if for good or for bad, but it's very likely that you will be surprised.
Doing things differently. Well,
I stole that one.
Yeah, but it's a good all along. What are you doing differently at TEDx in the way you run the organization, in the way you run this creation of this TEDx talks? As the team dynamics, team spirit. What is different there? What is good? What might be bad? Especially from the perspective, what could managers or Führungskräfte who are listening to this format maybe bring along to their workday?
We're doing a lot of things quite differently. It's not again, it's not that I'm claiming that we are the only ones, or it's over 4,000 events, TEDx events happening around the world. So I'm sure there are more people doing it as we are. But we barely know any other organization, TEDx organization, that is doing it this way. We have, usually because of how the license is built, it's very, very common that you have one person that is the head of the team, that is the head of the team for years and years and years. And is the licensee and organizer. That's the title that the person holds. This is also how it's put in the license and how the communication with TED headquarters works. And we refuse to do that, and it's 4 of us. And we iterate, like we have a rotation on who applies for the license. And as the license has a licensee and a co-organizer, we apply, the 2 of us. So, and if, let's say, I was actually the licensee of last year's event, and Mario was the co-organizer. And the idea is that next event, as he was already the co-organizer, he becomes the licensee for the next one. And one of the other 2 people of the 4 in the rotation will become the co-organizer. And then that person will come to the licensee. And in 3 years, I will come into the rotation again as a co-organizer. And then in the 4th year, I will be the licensee again. And we had to explain it to TED, and like, it took a little bit of a while, but now they totally understand how we do it. And they approve our licenses like in a blink of an eye. Like, it's really not an issue. But it was fascinating to us to watch. We attended, 3 of the 4, we attended to a TED event in Atlanta some time ago. And people will come to you going like, I'm Gabriel, I'm the TEDx organizer and licensee. And we were like, yeah, I'm Katherine. I come from TEDx Linz. And are you the organizer? Yes, no, yeah, sometimes. And they couldn't put their heads around on how we were doing things, because part of the whole thing is being the one, and whoever is the co-organizer, even the co-organizer will go like, I'm the co-organizer of TEDx, whatever it is. It's like, why are you even telling me that? Like, I'm really, why is it? It was so peculiar to observe this need of telling everyone your title in a volunteer work organization that you're doing. Is why are you doing it? That it's so important to you to refer to your title over and over again when you're presenting yourself.
It's status, right? Probably.
Yes, but still, it felt so overdone somehow. Like it didn't feel that it was giving any status to anyone. Everyone was organized, so they're in the room. So it didn't give any status to anyone. Like if we would have been somewhere else, maybe. But there in that room where everyone was either an organizer or a co-organizer, what type of status that gives you? Like it doesn't really gives you anything, because we all know what it takes to be there. There's way more work than status. Like you put so much in. But anyways, so that's one part of on the structure, like on the structure towards the global organization, and then. In our internal structure, of course, for legal reasons, you do need someone that is the legal representative, like to sign contracts and so on, and it also has to do with a level of commitment or how much you want to commit. So we have, so to say, a 2-layered structure, which is again very, very uncommon. That you have the people that are really willing to put their name and be legally responsible for it, and then it's everyone else. And anyone can jump into the above layer if they wish. You just have to commit way more. And if you're not willing to commit, then you can stay with everyone. And we don't have more layers than that. And this is comes very, very as a very unusual thing to many. Not particularly on TEDx organizers, but in organizations in general. How flat we keep the organization. And it has a lot of challenges. It's not that it's the perfect place, but then you get to calibrate and learn about your personal ego, how that works. Like, are you really willing? Although you're putting all of this commitment, you're putting your name, you're legally responsible, and you're still not the one person being named. You're just in a rotation that you're named every once in a while, along with so many other people. Are you willing to do that? It's like, it's a very, you have to calibrate things in a very, and you have to have those hard conversations. If you don't have that honest conversations and openly say, okay, I'm not feeling good about this. I can take that part, but this is just not working with me on a personal level, then you don't figure it out. And at some point it breaks.
So on one side, it's good for the ego and for the attitude of people. If they're,
I didn't say it was good for the ego. I just said that you will encounter yourself with your ego. You will have to watch yourself on if it's, and you will see how big your ego is, because to be in that type, if it's too big, you won't be able to cope with it.
and I would cluster this process as something good. Every time we ask ourselves those questions and get to know ourselves better, it's a good thing.
Yes, and there's a huge feeling of relief as well. Because when you are the number one together with a group, and I mean, it can be any group, because you have to trust the group as individuals and as a group as well. Then you have so much that you can handle that will come to you. From feedback to opinions to problems to money problems to legal problems, like you will have, and the more diverse that group of people is, the more diverse and prepared you are for all different type sort of problems. But if you're the only one, like this thing that you listen over and over again, being on the top is so lonely. But why do we keep on doing that? Having just one person on the top. Why do we need that? Because this is a cultural construct that there needs to be one president. Why? Why do you need to have one person on the top?
Some would argue that the gained experience of being at the top is sharing more thoughts. Like with every hierarchy level, usually there comes different types of perspective and experience and expertise. And this could be beneficial. Like if you have one sales rep who's only doing sales, he will be really good at sales. If you take him on leading the team, he might not be really good at leading the team because he's a really good sales rep.
Yes.
And I believe some people would argue.
Usually that is contradictory. So the very good salesperson is a horrible lead.
And I believe this is something why it is the way it is, that in some reasons, maybe not in every company or every situation, that it's necessary to have somebody who really knows how to play this role or who knows the tricks and has the experience. But this is something I want to ask you, since you are having this rotation, do you feel that the whole organization is more aware of multiple things because you are rotating the roles, and therefore I might think they tend to understand the decision of the president better or of the different roles because they have been there and have a way better understanding for what the decision dynamic is.
Absolutely. And you get a break. You get to get a longer break than being in the position. And then you get a lot of more understanding on which are the troubles. And if something is not working, you get to react proactively way faster than if the rotation doesn't exist. Because otherwise you're always on the waiting. And instead of being on the waiting, you are on a break, which is very, very different. Like, if you feel that you're on vacations or you're just waiting for your turn to come whenever it comes, because you don't even know if it will come, it's a totally different perspective on how you will react when a problem is coming, or how willing you will be to help or to reach out and say, I've done this somewhere else and I can bring in this expertise. And the second part that I wanted to, because I think it's very, very relevant to what you were asking now, the second part that I wanted to tell you of what we do, I believe very differently. I can't put that on paper, but this is more of a gut feeling, is that I try as much as possible as the lead of the coaching team, of the curation team, to make people aware on how important a circular mentoring is. The most easy example that I've come with of explaining that is when grandpa buys a new phone. Who does he go to ask for installing an app? Or he doesn't go to the other senior. Probably he will pick the youngest of the grandkids. The 14-year-old, the 12-year-old will be the best choice. And I think this is a very simple to understand situation, but there are so many things in any organization where the younger members, the junior members, will have way better ideas and perspectives into the situation than the senior ones. That doesn't mean that they have in every single situation the best perspective, but that is also valid for the senior ones. So when you're having a rotation, when you have several people as head of an organization and not just one, and then the team of seniors, but why don't you just cut the president and just have the seniors? Or why do they only need to be seniors? And us tapping each other on our shoulders because we've done things, again, the same way as we always did it, which is probably the wrong way to do it, And why is it so important in the example of the curation, especially, if we don't give the space to the new ones, no matter I'm not talking when I'm referring to junior, it's not that I'm referring to younger people of age younger, but people that have been for a short period of time in the process of the curation. Whoever has never curated, they come in with such amazing expectations, energy, ideas, fresh eyes, ears, that I will never, ever have again, no matter what I do. But me not having those brings a lot on the table as well. But if we lack of one of the two parts, the lineup will come very dry or very too naive or too experienced or too intellectual or too... And when you're trying to curate, and this is for markets and so on, it's very applicable as well, I can imagine. You're trying to, that's one of the most challenging things of curating a TEDx event, that you're curating for what is called a general audience. You have just the broad, you don't have only cardiologists on you don't have only lawyers in the room. So it's not that you're focusing into a topic that that you have a baseline. You're talking to sort of everyone. And if I'm the only one having a say there, I will only talk to people like me. I will never, ever be able to talk to the general audience by myself. Mm-hmm. And if I don't include the junior roles into the process in a way that there's a safe space created and that they're all also willing and excited about putting their ideas on the table, we will have a really, really boring event. And that will challenge almost nobody. It's tricky because it's also true that when you do it for the first time, you tend to put ideas that they have already been there. So you tend to put a lot of things on the table that will be very quickly discarded. Mm-hmm. So you have to protect also the self-esteem of that person. So it needs to be a safe space. And you need to have that conversation openly, that this will happen. You will put 10 on the table and most likely at least 9 will be discarded. But that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. You need to have the conversation that, because sometimes putting those on the table will lead us to something else that we wouldn't have thought about. And that is also extremely important. So defining how your circular mentoring works, not everyone will put the same things on the table. It's an ongoing conversation. And I think it's a very difficult one because there's so little being implemented about it. Although I think it's crucial that there's more of that in every possible situation in life.
How would you adopt this in, let's call it, normal organizations here in Austria? Because the thing which usually happens with this discarding process you were just mentioning, this is quite common with juniors coming in and sometimes maybe having not the bigger picture, or some managers call it a naive perspective. And they will share many ideas, but there's a lot of reasoning why those ideas are not feasible because of regulatory, because of the market, because of financials, whatsoever organizations are clustered to. How would you treat those ideas to have the spirit and those ideas still being shared, but also giving the causation or the story behind why it's not feasible sometimes?
I think in many cases, those new ideas from the newcomers, it is very true that they're not feasible, but they do have a very strong why or how embedded in them that you, as the senior, you have the responsibility of the distillation of that because you are the experienced one. And you need to go back to them. Okay, in our case, I'm not picking the speaker, but actually the idea of bringing in this perspective of technology, of women, of society, of how your generation is being misunderstood is so relevant. Let's find together the speaker that actually can bring this to the point. Not your friend from college, because probably that person will bring the whole story in a very naive way. And the people that you want to talk to are actually not the rest of the students, because they already know that. You want to come across to the older generation. So maybe we need to find someone in ages 40 plus or 50 plus that has an interesting say to that, or an experience where his mind changed, and hopefully is a white male, and there the white male thing makes sense. And then the idea that person brought in, it's being valued, but it's not that. At the end of the day, no matter what we put on the table, it's very rare that people would say, okay, it's ready to go. Let's put it on the shelf and sale and put it on sale immediately. Usually, it will have many iterations, and there will be a lot of people having a say to it and making it completely feasible. It's only that through the years of experience, you get to propose things that are feasible enough so that people can put it into the line, in the production line. And people coming in probably haven't calibrated that is feasible enough. But when was the last time that you put something that was fully feasible on the table? And I think it's the responsibility of the senior to put that on the table, to see, okay, all of this that you proposed, these parts are like the shell of it, and those are the naive. But here in the core, there's always a core that is very, very interesting. And it's very, very easy. And I would say it's very, very lazy and arrogant from the manager saying that the whole thing has to be discarded. It's just really easy. It's not feasible and you don't understand that. That's the other person really doesn't. It's very, very, it's common that they actually understand it better than the manager, how the money works or how the technology works. But there are some policies that the manager knows by heart that can go like, and he has his colleague that they went together, they studied together, they are godfathers to their children, and no matter what he says, the other guy will just support because they've been friends forever, and not because really. But I think it's back on the senior, not on the junior.
So the advice for every senior who is listening is to dig deeper on the why and the how and what is behind some juniors are telling, even though it's not feasible in those scenarios, to dig deeper, to follow up on it, and to get the best out of it, out of the idea, and not only why it's not feasible.
When saying it's too naive, think twice. Be a little bit more humble, and be more like, be more intelligent. Because there might be something that you're not seeing, that that person is seeing. Ask the person, what is the important thing that they see in this proposal? Or what is it that is hurting? What is bothering? Because maybe the solution that they're proposing is the only thing that they could think of. But there's a huge clarity on what hurts. And you might have a gold mine there. And by just saying it's too naive, because the solution they thought about to tackle that problem is actually too naive, because it might be, I give you that, it might be, but that doesn't mean that the hurt or the why is too naive. They might be onto something. They usually are.
There's another thing I want to grasp on with you. There is in today's society, there's many first or front runners who are always on the stage, always invited to podcasts. And now you mentioned before we started the recording that this is not the situation you're most used to, because usually you coach the people who are sitting there.
I'm never on the mic.
You're never on the mic. So, and this is an interesting thing, because I believe not everybody is born on being on stage or being always in the center. And that sometimes it gives the wrong expression. If I'm not famous, if I'm not the podcast host, if I'm not the CEO, I'm not using or I'm not making use of all of my talents. And sometimes I think, I'm not sure if your talents are in the first row, maybe they're in the second row, maybe you're a really good facilitator, coach, whatever there might be out there. How do you see this trend?
I think how to word it. I started thinking about. Thank you for the question. I started thinking about this really early on. There's something about my personality, or how I speak, or how I stand in front of big groups, like presenting, that there's a perception that I should be the leader, or at least that was something that I was told over and over again, especially when younger, when I was way more determined and categorical on my opinions. I still am, but I used to be way stronger than that. And it felt off all the time. I didn't want to be the president. I didn't want to be the number one, but I did it anyhow, because there were so many telling me that that was my role. And there was a general consensus that we still have, that this is what we aim for, to the top of the line. Also because you want to earn more money or be more, I don't know. But it never felt like the place where I felt comfortable, where I had fun doing the work. There was the recognition, which it was so off, because I felt so responsible. And this feeling of relief that I was talking about being together with other people on the first line. This is something that I can do, but being alone in the first line I'm always so stressed that I have the feeling I can't really perform. I'm not at ease there. It's not a safe space for me. It's not about getting out of your comfort zone. It's just not my place. I don't feel talented for doing that. I don't feel the capacity of taking the responsibility that comes with it. I don't want that responsibility, which doesn't mean that I don't want responsibility. The responsibility that comes along with the first one in line is something that I don't feel comfortable with. I don't feel comfortable with legal. I don't feel, especially with legal, I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I don't enjoy reading it. I don't enjoy diving into a topic. So I will never master it, because I'm always rejecting it and not listening, because it's not my thing. But then when I'm in second in line, it's a totally different story. When it's about creating the space, when it's about preparing, when it's about having the interaction with the rest of the people and finding what is it that could happen, imagining that, planning that space, and not taking the final decision. Taking the final decision is not my thing. I hate it. When I have to do it, I do it. But it's not what I enjoy. I enjoy having the space to imagine, to get creative about what could be. And those are sort of opposing worlds, because in the second in line, how I see it or how I experience it, for me, it's about opening the space, bringing more light, more air, more people sitting around, having food together. That's my thing. And the first in line gets to cut the cake and say, okay, we're going for that one. So it's the exact opposite, and both are really, really needed. I don't fully understand why is it that we decided as a society or as a culture that this one of making the final decision is the number one and gets to earn twice as much or 100 times more money than the one doing the other job. Because I think one without the other, they just don't work. You don't get to anything. Like if one person needs to do both, usually they take the wrong decision because the skills you need to do one and the skills you need to do the other one, they're just so different. And then we have what I believe what we were talking about before, when we spoke. There's this lack of role models on the second line. If you think about, if you think about Biden when he was a vice president, my personal perception, and I can't imagine most people would agree to some extent, is that he was on the waiting line. And if he doesn't come to become a president, then he failed. And I'm sorry, he's the vice president of the United States. Like, it's one of the most powerful roles in the world. And we still perceive him as loser. And take any other vice president of a big country, because that person doesn't get to make the final decisions, which makes no sense, because how many number ones do we have in the world, and how many number twos? Because the number twos are several of them as well. But the number one is just one on the top. So does it make sense in how many we are? Like, if everyone is aiming to be the number one, it will be billions and billions of people being frustrated till they die. Like, just a handful that will actually succeed in this expectation. And it's very, very likely that many of them didn't even want to be the number one, and they just did it because of what they were expected to do.
That's why I wanted to tackle this, especially because there's so few role models on this. If you take any random job, if you are developer and if you stay developer, you are not successful in the way probably your surrounding society is treating you. If you become the team lead, yeah, you made career. And nobody's actually saying, wow, you really like developing, you are in the field you're really good at, you really glow, and this really comes easy to you, and it has a benefit for the organization. Mm-hmm. This usually people never talk about, right? Same as it goes with vice president. And I mean, today some organization or some literature is talking about how the way we are hiring, that sometimes we are putting the best horse out of the race because of the way we do.
To go and manage to
manage, yeah,
the gallery.
And he doesn't know anything about it. He wants and is best in running.
Yes.
And I believe this is something we need to change perspective. At the same time, I do understand the struggle with incentivation, that it becomes harder to raise the salary in certain types. Because usually if you have more responsibility, in case you really have it, because most people like to be the manager and they don't take the responsibility. And I say, no, this is not what I'm getting paid for. I say, no, yes, you are. And there's also a big misunderstanding. But this is really interesting, I believe.
Yeah.
And do you think that many people, especially students or juniors, are struggling with this perspective of, I'm only successful if I jump places, if I'm in the first row, if I'm the manager, team lead, CEO, president? Do you think there is a struggle coming out of this,
yes.
This expectation?
Yes, absolutely. And it's so absurd because then you push people to start doing things they are not able to do just to meet that expectation. And I actually don't understand why is it that to your best engineer, why can't you pay him as the CEO? If he's the very, very best, for sure your CEO is not the very best of all CEOs. I don't understand it. I actually don't. Because the thing is that it's not linear. You said it yourself, the best programmer won't be necessarily a good team leader. Why is that the next step in his career path? Why can't he go on the career path of being a better programmer or getting into more risky projects? Or why is the only next step being the leader of his own team? Like and that is already a big thing. And this is how you push your best people to go to another company, because they don't want to go through the social hurt of passing from one day to the next, of being part of a group to being the lead of the group. That it can be horribly hard. Many people can manage it and they even enjoy it maybe, but it's a very, very harsh process to be one day we're partners and then I'm your boss. Why is that the only path?
With many things, if you are the very best in what you do, and it's easy to quantify, I believe then it's also possible to do it easier.
Yeah, but the ceiling still is still the ceiling of the CEO will still be high above, and of that best programmer, you will still have it like halfway if he's lucky.
I mean, we do have it with sales team. There's many sales employees who are earning more than the CEO usually. But this is also like the only field which is that
because
easily to be
commission
quantified.
system as well.
Yeah. And then with variable salary, and if you're really good, you will get it back. And then there is different tasks which are, I believe, really hard to quantify. And also opportunity cost. If it's really hard to get a really good CEO, this I do understand is different than if I need somebody who is editing my podcast setting. And even though this would be the really, really best worldwide, this would be expensive to have because I don't need the best, especially with AI.
Yeah, but then you don't need the best.
Yeah.
But if you are in the space of a company that you actually do need the best, take a look at the big companies worldwide. Actually, that structure is where it comes from. Like those are the ones that are most strict on that salary and seniority levels and all the layers they have, and the ceiling is really, really clear that if you don't go into the manager level, you will never get to seniority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You will 8 is your max out of 10, you know, and you stay there in the bottom no matter what you do. And the organization itself forces those excellent programmers, engineers, or whatever it is, to jump into the administrative tasks that they might not be suitable at all, or managing people that it's not their skills, and they stop doing the thing they do amazingly well. And it's only because of a decision that was taken within the organization that this is the way it has to work. And there's very little space to try out something else in a different department. If you want to try out in a different department, you have to apply and to actually change the job. And you don't get to have sort of internships within the company to have like those things. And there's no possibility of the juniors making a workshop for the seniors to get them into that. Like there's so much of doing like we have always done it, and tapping or each other on our shoulders. I don't know exactly. Maybe it has to do with a human condition of rejecting change, or I don't know. But it doesn't seem logical to me at all.
It isn't. And it also brings a lot of conflict, because especially role conflict and frustration. Because many people don't see them as a manager, they see themselves as a technician or whatever, or as a seller, and not at the team lead team of the sales team, which comes with different responsibilities and different behavior.
Yeah. And it has to do with your identity as well. So of your character. I mean, like there are certain things where you feel really, really comfortable doing, and your skills go with it. Also because of the fact that you feel comfortable doing it, you do it all the time. So you gain and polish your skills and gain experience because you really like it. So, but then the organization pushes you if you need more money, or if you want to like advance in your career, that you have to switch to a totally different thing, and then your biggest strengths are part of your backup knowledge, like your base knowledge, so that you can make like the technical conversation. You understand, you can talk both to the technicians and to the managers that have no idea, like but is that really your role? For some it will be, but not for everyone. It can be that it's so linear.
At the same time, I'm curious how things are changing, because I do get to know more and more solopreneurs, like freelancers, who really like doing X or Y or Z, and they earning more money if they do it being self-employed, if they're good at, because this skill is usually appreciated, and also of not having an employee you have to pay over year and year, just getting an expert who's really good at it. And there I see a trend, especially with the younger generation, saying, I don't want to be Führungskraft. I don't want to be manager, but I really like doing this. So I'm getting self-employed, because then I can get a lot of money. And if they're good with marketing also, of course, and they still do what they like of doing. Some people are like moonshotting, that are saying, this will be we will have a big market of small self-employed, and that this will increase. And at the same time, another trend with AI, with a potential reduction of this administrative tasks and emailing back and forth and data analysis. Maybe this opens up a door of changing things, at least for some companies who are curious on playing the ball in a different style. So I'm really curious if we are at the moment where this might change, or it will change for sure. The question is how it will.
Probably that's out of my scope of expertise. I can answer more of a gut feeling. I personally, but this is really like my personal opinion, I think both things will happen. And I think many, as you named it yourself, is a trend. Many will fall into it, and some will succeed. But I wouldn't be surprised if most feel that it was a trap, and they will have some experience through it. But I don't think big organizations will vanish. And I can also understand and feel that, especially when you're young and the way you see when you've recently finished your studies and you're starting and you have all this energy and you feel that you come into this elephant organization that moves so slow and that I can't deal with that. But there will be some that will take advantage of that situation as well. So it's 8 billion of us. There won't be one solution for that fits all. So,
which is usually never the case.
Exactly. And this thing, everything needs to change. Things need to change, but not everything. We're not capable to changing it. You need to choose your battles, and depending on your character, and depending on what you wish for, and depending on your goals, you will go on one path or the other. But this being solo entrepreneurs, I think it takes a lot of character and a lot of skin. And I can perfectly imagine that most people going that path are underestimating what it takes in the long run. And when your parents are no longer paying for your rent and the food, and you have hotel mama to wash your clothes, and when it really has to work.
Or also if it's not only you anymore. Exactly. If you get to raise your family. Because as long as it's just you, it's probably it's easier, but responsibility changes.
Life happens. So in every direction, in very dramatic and sad directions, in very beautiful and exciting things, and as we go through life, we do change our minds, and that's a beautiful thing as well. Like which I believe we should discuss a lot more about the value of changing your mind. That should be a value in itself, and we should also something that one should discuss. So there are things that are core to you and you probably won't change in your lifetime, but there are other things. It's also a skill that needs to. It's also okay if you want to try this path, regardless and despite all of the backlashes that may come. I still want to try it out myself and see which are the ones maybe I do get lucky, and maybe it is what I'm made for, and I can only get to understand it if it is that way or not if I go through it. And but that's sort of an opinion, a personal opinion, not coming from anything of my experience.
This perspective on changing the own opinion.
Yes.
Did something change about your career of the duration you want to stay in a job? Because I remember when we were having this online talk, you were mentioning that people are not staying long enough to learn the crucial learnings. And that your perspective, or it sounded that your perspective changed on this topic. You said to crack the code.
Yeah, that you need to, I said something like, you need to stay long enough to be able to crack the code. Something. Yes. Yes, I think this is also linked to something else that we discuss about getting comfort with discomfort. Because too often times, and this is something that I've experienced it myself as well. It's not that I'm pointing fingers or anything. But we fall into a dynamic that feeling discomfort of some sort is reason enough to leave. It can be a reason, yes. It's not that I'm saying that we need to suffer all, but discomfort in itself is neither good nor bad. You need to evaluate it according to what you're looking for. But and why did I bring this up to you? It was because when I started leading the speaker management team, I had no experience whatsoever in public speaking. As you had mentioned, and we have mentioned a couple of times, the microphone is not really where I love to talk, but the microphone and getting recorded and everything is something that I get sweaty hands every time. It's not really something that I totally love. I've learned to be better at it, but I do it only when I feel it's worth it and that will be fun and it makes sense. I started leading the team because I was so interested in getting to know which were the ideas that were coming in and how the whole thing worked about the ideas, or how the lineup was. I wasn't interested at all in the coaching or the speaker management. I was really interested in how the content of the conference was built. So maybe a little even autistic from myself. I just wanted to get to know your brain, not, and then little by little, because of the dynamics and the needs that we had, I started supporting the coaching as well. And the more I got into it, I did find that people did find comfort and felt that I could support them well. And then I started getting, it felt like baby steps into what it is to be a public speaking coach, which still sounds really big to me. And after being in this role in different phases for throughout a decade, only last time I really enjoyed being backstage with my speakers and had tons of fun. And I even moderated, and I must say for the first time I had fun moderating on stage. And maybe it was also because I know that there were some people in the audience that didn't quite like what we did, but we chose to moderate our coachees. So we had 4 moderators on stage, which is very rare to see. Usually you have 1 or 2. That's what you have. We had 4. And if I had been your coach, I would moderate and make the closing words with you on stage. And then another speaker will come. If I didn't coach that next speaker, someone else would come, their coach will come, and so on. And then is when I had that feeling that what I told you. If I hadn't stayed long enough, I had so many reasons, so many times to say, this is just too uncomfortable. This is just not for me. It's too much responsibility. It's too risky. I'm pushing people into doing things. How do I control what you were asking at the beginning? How do I control giving an opinion, giving candid feedback without pushing people to the cliff, without making them think that this is what they want to do, or really making them shine on stage and having them being themselves with ideas that they're really important to them, and that they convey them in a way that are important to the audience as well. So you have to balance so many things, and it can get really, really complex. And at some points, of course, you doubt yourself if maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have said that and I didn't say it. Or maybe we said it too late, or maybe we explain it poorly, or it happens every time. But you also learn to come to peace with that discomfort. But that only coming to peace with those spaces of discomfort and those situations where you said, we could have done it better, and you put it in your list of learnings and best practices in peace, not with like sleepless nights afterwards. It only comes with the iterations and understanding that you actually did enough. And there's always this part that you won't be able to do. You can't cover everything. And the confidence of that being a balanced proportion comes, I believe, only with staying long enough. And only with staying long enough, you find also the place and the role where you're good at. And with confidence, you can say someone comes with a proposal of a promotion. You say, no, that's not what I want to do. I've only heard something like that in the workplace from people that have been long enough there. I've never heard it from someone that has been only for a couple of years. That doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. But the examples that come into my mind of people that say, no, I'm not going to the manager position because this is what I want. And this is what I have fun for. And I will just arrange to get more money or to get more vacations. And they find their way out and they crack their code. It's not that particular example is important for me, but you see how they managed to get to do what they wanted to do and to get the conditions and negotiate the conditions of the contract in the way that they are at peace, because they also put an enormous value on doing what they want to do, which I think we underestimate when we jump from one to the other just to get more money or just to get higher on the hierarchy just for the sake of it. You underestimate how important it is to your well-being, to being alive and being able to develop yourself in the direction that you want to, that you enjoy and that you want to do. It can be very misleading, the structure that we have, and we discard very rapidly the role that you really want to have, just because of the sake of the tasks. You discard it very rapidly. Also for lack of not knowing yourself. And this again comes back to you need to stay long enough.
Yeah. So there might be 2 reasons to jumping too early. One is money, probably. And the other one might be the way we feel at work, if friction arises. Do you think this is also a big reason why people are, let's say, jumping places because of their leaving environments where they think, I'm not treated the way I should, I'm not sponsored the way I should, that people are running away from friction sometimes?
True, but I think the last part is the most important one. I think oftentimes it's a mixture, and there's I don't want to generalize, but that's very easy to say. I'm not treated exactly how you put it in the exact words. I'm not treating the way I should be treated. Have you thought how you are treating? And have you thought about where is your baseline of discomfort? Because maybe you are actually taking it too personal. Maybe it is neutral the way they told you things. And maybe praise is something that you need to earn. And these are truths that out of the other version of being polite are happening all the time. And there you have the concept of the crystal generation, which I think is a very harsh generalization, but because it's not something that generation owns. I think it's all over the place. From the 80-year-old CEO that doesn't want to go home and no one is telling him that it's time to leave some space for other people, to the youngest one that wants to come in with everyone clapping because they can walk.
So for everybody who's not familiar, what is the crystal generation or the concept of it?
Of the I don't know exactly which is the generation that, but it's sort of it's the group of the younger the workforce that is coming in. So the generations that are coming into the workforce, that you can't tell them anything. Like everything needs to be only praise, and you need to, as I was saying, you need to clap them because they can walk. And it's a generalization, of course. It's not. It's very, very offensive, I think, also to describe a whole generation under such a concept. It's being lazy as well. It's not investing your time, doing your homework in learning who they are. And it's also not taking the responsibility of the older generations why that became to be. Because they were raised in a certain culture where they became crystal, or at least it feels, because they haven't developed the skill of getting into any conflicts because their parents didn't let them fall from the tree because they might get hurt. Yeah, so what? You know, we all climbed the tree and fell, and we're all standing here. Like it's and I have a child of my own. He's 7, so I know the struggle and how much the stomach hurts when you let him fall off the tree. But then he stands up proud of himself because he knows how to fall from the tree. You know? And if you don't start in the early age of 1, 2, he will become a crystal boy. And I don't want a crystal grown up in my family. Like this is not how I want to raise my kid. But that's a conscious decision that we've taken, and that has a risk that you have to be able to manage as well, because but the way I understand it, or the way I look at it, is there's no way that you can avoid the risk. I have the risk that my boy might fall and might break a leg or might hit his head, but if I don't let him, I have the risk of him becoming a crystal person, which is the one that you want to have.
And your 7-year-old doesn't only know how to fall down, he also knows that he can stand up, right? I believe this is the lesson. Yeah. To trust, to be able to learn that you're able to trust yourself to manage situations.
But I must say it's both. It's really, really important to know how to fall. Yeah. Because if you don't know how to fall, you will never be able to stand up, because you will die in the fall. You will break in the fall. You need to know to learn where you can fall and what. So it's also about risk management, and to see how the standing up will look like and how the fall will look like. But you need to learn how to fall as well. Yeah. It's as important, and even, I would say, to me, it's even more important than knowing how to stand up. Because when you fall, people will help you. But while you're falling, you fall by yourself. You need to be able to be independent while falling.
I mean, the falling analogy is more like the decision-making of where to climb, right?
Yes. But both. It's also about the falling, like really falling, like, and hitting the floor, like really literally falling, knowing how to bend your body and protect your head and put your hands. You need to have that experience as well, physically, to be able to understand it metaphorically. Like, he has never broken a leg or a hand. We've never run to the emergency room with him, but I let him fall since he was a baby. So the fall while he was a baby was from the mattress on the floor to it was this height that is a 1-year-old baby can manage. And yeah, he cried. But then his lungs are really strong.
And at the same time, he might have learned or is learning that there's some hurtful moments which are part of life.
Yeah, at least I hope.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
And this is sometimes I grasp while listening to conversation in the metro or going somewhere or scrolling through social media, that I get the idea or the feeling that too many people are thinking, if I'm not happy all the time, I do something wrong. And I believe this is a wrong expectation management. And actually, I talked with Stefan about this also. And I said, to quote myself, it never can be the expectation of life to always be happy. If this is the take, you will fail for 100%. And I believe this is a difficult game also with everything.
Because it also has probably the same dynamic of this exponential eternal growth. Because whatever makes you happy now, if you, at some point it will be just content. At some point it will be the normal life. At some point it's something that you can't bear anymore. The exact same thing. So you have to keep on reinventing how to keep on being happy all the time.
And it's never the feeling in first place. But and when it comes to my life, because I have experience, it's never the first feeling I have which makes me happy over the long time. This podcast episode, the preparation, being stressed with work and everything, this is not the fun part. The fun part is the conversation we're having now. But if I would never reach out to you to kind of like manage my time, to make time and have time and prepare, which is not the fun part, I would say. Sometimes it is, but most usually it's not because it feels like work.
Yeah.
I would never reach the situation to be in this podcast.
We're laughing together.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we'll think about it and oh, wow, this was great. And then I have a certain level of expertise or thoughts, which makes it easier to research different parts because I'm interested in stuff. And I believe sometimes we never end up in this first level of competence, which makes every second and third research or conversation way more interesting. Because we are so much on the surface because it doesn't feel good to get out of the couch. Or Netflix is really easy and TikTok comes really in handy or LinkedIn or email or whatever it might be. And this is nothing else than managing friction with yourself somehow, I would say. And do you think?
And valuing it as well.
Yeah, true.
Giving yourself the permission of feeling sadness, feeling anger. Well, with anger, it's a different story probably. But feeling discomfort, it will bring it. It's not nice, but that's fine. Why should it be nice? But that will bring you insights of who you are and what you can do and what. So it can bring you so many more learnings and it can push you towards your goals so much faster. It is a fast track, like the comfort and the ice cream and Netflix. It's really, really slow. Like it even pushes you back towards what you want to do. But it's also fine. It's also fine wanting to just for the whole weekend eat ice cream in your pajamas and just binge watch whatever romance comedy you want to watch, although you won't ever tell your friends you watch that comedy because it's just too girly. It's fine, it's perfectly fine. It's part of, and then that is where you loosen up and you get the space of being all the versions of yourself, and then is when I think the more phases of yourself that can arise and find a space in your life, the more successful you will feel as a human being. And the part of being happy is one of them. It shouldn't be the one that surrounds everything. It's one of the phases. It's one of the versions of you. But the sad one is also. And there's a beauty in crying and being sad and being deeply sad as well. And it has this. It becomes so palatable and so present that you do care. You care. Whatever it is that you're sad about, you care. Whereas when being happy, that never arises or very seldomly arises. There are situations, of course, that your big happiness has to do with you caring a lot about things. But this general happiness of being like TikTok happy, it doesn't match the type of care you have when you're really sad, when you're truly sad.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, even though I would argue only sitting on the couch and watching or consuming Netflix, Instagram, whatever, and eating food which is not healthy for you won't make you happy over the long.
No.
At the same time, of course, allow yourself to not be productive.
But that's a version of yourself that you're allowed to have if that's your crappy version of yourself that you want to have. We all have. I was having a conversation with a friend trying to quit smoking and feeling really, really bad because took another cigarette, although the goal was not to take any cigarette at all. And the reflection was like, you can punish yourself because of that. You just don't see how each and every one of us is doing the exact same thing, regardless if we smoke or not.
Yeah.
And you will do it while gaming or not, while smoking or not, while partying or not, while working or not, while working out or not. Like going to the gym can also become the cigarette.
True.
And it's part of coping with stress. And that is also a version of oneself that should be possible without killing ourselves because we did it. And it just makes it worse. You get more anxious and you do it more. So get on your PJs and eat ice cream and watch Netflix. But not all day, not every day. But every once in a while, I think it's more than fun.
I have one last question. No, actually, it's a lie. I have more questions, but I have one of the bigger topics. Do you think we as society lost the ability of coping with friction?
Oh, yes. Horribly. Yes.
How so?
If I compare myself with my grandfather, oh God, I can't get into an argument. And he would make everything an argument. And I don't think he was very, very different from his generation. I think this is what they did. They discussed everything and they got really into tough arguments. And this is how the most relevant and significant friendships he had were through like killing each other through arguments. If you watch like the abilities, especially if you take a look on the quality and the even the rhetorics of old politicians compared to what we see nowadays, it's a very easy example of what I mean by that. But it's also about the definition that you were saying about being polite. How many times we think about telling someone else, I can't really compare. I don't know how he felt. I'm not him. How he felt when he got into an argument. Maybe he had a very bad character, and maybe some other people would go like, no, you're just like romanticizing the whole thing around him. but at least through the work that in which I get involved in when coaching, when diving into the ideas of people, I've become to understand that getting into a discussion is not the same thing as fighting, which is really easy to say, but it's very, very hard to do. And through this distance and this protection of having the title of being immersed in this certain context, I get to train that muscle memory of being able to get into a discussion and not getting into a fight. And I also sort of figured out how this it was sort of a flowing skill that went from my work that I do at TEDx to my personal life, that someone told me, yeah, you never get into a fight with your husband. And I was like, no, I've never fought with him. Like in 2 months, we will have our 10th year anniversary. And we've never got in. And we were together about 5 years. So we've been together about 15 years. And we have never, ever, ever screamed to each other.
But you probably had many arguments.
But my first feeling when this arises, like maybe my relationship is super fake and like super superficial, because like this sentence, like all couples fight, like that you hear it. It's like I don't fight, but actually we do. Like we don't fight, we discuss. And I know it's very intellectual and it's very like it can come across like very arrogant. And
what is the difference for you between discussing and fighting?
It has to do on one side on how emotional you get and the fact that my relationship is not in my mother language might help a lot. I must say, probably if our whole relationship would be in Spanish, it would be different. But it's about the discussion is also going back constantly into making the effort on how to put it, how to phrase it, so that it lands the way I want it to land. And I'm choosing the words very, very purposely. It is all about me. It is how I want things to land on you. But I need to include you in the thought. And that's when it becomes a discussion and not a fight. When I don't include you in, I just throw at you, I'm fighting. It's a throwdown, you know? But when I have the intention that we get into a conversation, because a fight is, you have no intention into getting into a conversation. You just want to win.
Yeah.
You want to win. But if you want to go forward together, it's a totally different thing. You need to include the other person's perspective to the extent that you can. You will never, that sentence of put yourself in somebody else's shoes, I think is the most absurd thing that anyone can say, because I will never be able to be you. I will never be able to even grasp how your perspective looks like into the world. But when knowing you, I might already have some cues on how you react to certain things. And that knowledge that I have about you is what I try to include. And when you actively do that, I think then you have a potential in going into a discussion and not into a fight.
I would be with you. I would say fighting is about winning and discussion is about learning or closing. With closing, I mean
moving forward.
And a best case scenario, both with the same understanding, or at least with the same understanding what the conversation was about.
Yes.
Because there's so many situations where you can't close everything in one discussion.
Yes.
But at the same time, I have the strong expectation or wish on relationships. Is it family? Is it team organization?
But then I have a question for you. what would be the difference between a conversation and a discussion to you?
A conversation could be about everything. And usually it could be that we agree on the same things from the first place. And more of a discussion is when you don't have the same opinion or the same meaning on stuff.
You need to start in
So
different. Okay.
there would. It's interesting to research it and to see what the definition is about. But for discussion or for sometimes we call it also a healthy conflict culture or a healthy communication culture, which includes a healthy conflict culture, which includes on the baseline that I'm able to deal with the friction side of me with self-management to be able to have a discussion or a conversation and not a fight. And at the same time, I know that we can't end everything in 30-minute meeting or 1 hour meeting. But at the same time, it could be, okay, this is where we are. And the next time we continue here because the result of the meeting is that there's no result and we will keep pushing or we will keep working upon it.
Because those in-between times are also extremely important to come to a conclusion, to come to a closing. So there's most of the work of coming to a closing happens, I believe, in the in-between times.
Yeah.
In the shower, like falling asleep.
Coming to a closing, matter of time. I have some questions I started asking every guest at the end. And you are free to answer whatever comes to your mind.
Okay.
Beyond comfort means to me.
Trying those things that I really want, but I'm scared about.
There should be more people in society who
Discuss.
or fight.
No, we have way more than enough who fight. That would be the ones that we need less.
My personal next step in development is?
I have no idea.
That's a tough one.
Yes.
And last one?
Probably one of my biggest struggles at the moment.
Yeah?
Yes.
And the last one? The next interview guest for this podcast should be?
I gave it to you already.
But
we'll keep it secret.
Yeah, we will keep it secret. All right, Katherine. Any last thoughts you want to share with whoever was listening to this episode?
First of all, thanks to you for the invitation. It was a delight to have you to be here with you. Any last thoughts? I think I would be repeating myself, but nevertheless, be braver on trying to tell the truth when, especially to those who matter to you, and you will be surprised. Be caring. Put the caring part in the middle, but be honest and drop the sandwich theory and just that no one cares about it. It just makes the whole thing fake. If you need to say something important, go out and tell it. You will be surprised.
Thank you very much. I really like the summary, more or less, in this perspective. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
If you liked listening to Katherine and her thoughts, let us know if we should invite her or which follow-up questions you might have. Next week, it's again, Let's Go Beyond Comfort. Thank you.
That was fun.
Yeah.